Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Cage Chat. Now I do apologise how late this one is, but we will be recapping last weekend's events. Now starting off, we're going to be looking at Bellator 216, which was MVP versus Paul Daley. Now this was a very big event for the UK scene. It was a part of the welterweight Grand Prix that Bellator are held in, which is more of the tournament style, whereas UFC are using the ranking systems. Bellator are holding these Grand Prix, these tournaments, where you have 8 competitors, or actually maybe 16 competitors, and you whittle it down to get a champion. Now they recently did it with heavyweight, where Ryan Bader did achieve and win the heavyweight crown. So yes, this was big for the UK scene, one because it was the first one on Sky Sports, and two, it is the two of the 3 biggest names inside British MMA, pardoning Darren Till that is. And MVP versus Paul Daley had brought up such a rivalry over the past 2 months, 3 months, and even before then, but really when this fight was announced and the press conferences, etc., they really put the heat on this competition and on this fight and brought all eyes towards it. Now unfortunately, personally, the fight for me wasn't what it was built up to be. It was a tactical affair. It was one where no one wanted to lose. The first round was very much cat and mouse with MVP in the centre, Paul Daley on the outer side, and they were just running rings around each other, not really hitting. Now MVP's style, his stance really put me off it, both hands down, jumping around. I was expecting Paul Daley to hit a flurry of punches or a high kick potentially, but he went for the takedowns, and this is where he got success in 2 of the 5 rounds that he won. It was a 3-2 victory, meaning 48-47 to MVP, and MVP moves on to the next round. But for the casuals, for Sky Sports fans tuning in for this event for the first time, I'd imagine they'd be pretty disappointed. Whether they'll stick around to the next one, who knows. But there's questions to be asked of MVP now. He has turned 15-0 now, but if you really look at the top 6 welterweights in the UFC, especially the champ Tyron Woodley, Darren Till himself, I think Darren Till would have a field day with MVP. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson as well, Robbie Lawler, Ben Askren. I think all these fighters at welterweight in the UFC now would have a field day with MVP. So it does hold where's the level between Bellator and UFC at this current moment, but he has got Douglas Lima in the next round of the competition. Now whether he beats Douglas Lima and goes on to beat the likes of Rory McDonough in this tournament, depending on what happens on the other side of the bracket, and if he wins the welterweight championship. But all in all, a poor fight and not one worth staying up for. Now moving on to the UFC, we did have UFC's first ESPN card with Cain Velasquez and Francis Ngannou headlining that card in Arizona, Phoenix. Now, before we move on to that, Cory Gracie did make his debut. Of course, the lineage, the foundations of the UFC was part of the Gracie family, and we now have the latest addition to that family name, a household name inside MMA, and a name that is godlike inside MMA. So yes, he did get a round 1 submission. It wasn't going to be anything else, was it, from Gracie inside round 1 against Alex Caceres, and it took him about 90 seconds between the takedown and getting the tap and the submission victory that he wanted to get. Now, he's not currently ranked, and I wouldn't expect him to be after 1 fight, but he does look like he has got a future ahead of him, and it would be interesting to see how he does against some of the top guys like Jose Aldo. Brian Ortega would be a good one because of his origins of California and his jiu-jitsu background also. That would very much be a good fight to see, but I think Brian Ortega's got very much superior striking. So there's a lot for him to work on. He has, of course, with Nick and Nate Diaz. So he's very much in good hands, and he's got incredible jiu-jitsu behind him, and you wouldn't expect anything else from a Gracie, would you? Now, one man making a return is Paul Felder. Now, commonly mostly known on the microphone in UFC commentary, commentating on the fights, he is an all-round pro in both the octagon and outside the octagon. And he came back returning from his broken arm after a year out against James Vick, and he did get a unanimous decision inside the 3rd round, which I thought was deserved. Now, he was very full of emotion, and it's going to be interesting who he fights next. He hasn't quite put himself into the top 15, I don't believe. I've not checked the rankings of the lightweight just as of yet. And who he faces next after beating someone like James Vick. We've of course got Barboza versus Gaethje up very soon. He might get the winner of one of those, maybe an Ally Quinter. Dustin Poirier potentially, who hasn't got a fight at the moment. With what's happening in the lightweight division, Paul Felder had a very good weekend. Now, someone who didn't have a very good weekend was Cain Velasquez. Cain Velasquez returned to the UFC, lasted only 26 seconds against the Predator Francis Ngannou. Now, there was talk about whether Francis Ngannou KO'd him via uppercut, or Cain Velasquez's knee did give out. Now, potentially a bit of both. Now, I was watching the Fight Companion with this, and Joe Rogan and the guys didn't. They first thought it was a KO, then they went to the knee, and then they went back to the KO. Sort of. It's hard to tell the way and when the knee goes out. Sort of times imperfectly to when Ngannou strikes, and I think it's a bit of both. But I think we did get the right result, which was a KO victory, because the punches at the end, just before the referee stops the fight, of course, did land. And I think Francis Ngannou moves on to number 2 in the heavyweight rankings. Now, he has got a big challenge on his hands with who he fights next. Potentially Daniel Cormier. Could it be Stipe Miocic in a rematch where he did fight in UFC 220 and got absolutely mauled? This was, of course, what sort of put the brakes on his momentum, especially, and the fight after that against Derek Lewis, which he admitted he was fearful of. Now, he's come back, got 2 wins on the bounce. One against the 26-second Cain Velasquez, who has not been in the ring or the octagon for 2 years, mind you. So it depends on what we see him next. But I am going to be doing my Cage Chat Next Opponent series on Francis Ngannou. So make sure you subscribe, and that will be coming out very soon. So yes, that was the recap of UFC. Now that was the recap of UFC Phoenix and Bellator 216. UFC for me did win the event of the weekend for me if you had to pick between the two, despite the main event not being as long, although it was slightly longer than Bellator 215's main event. So yes, make sure you drop a like on this, subscribe to Cage Chat for more MMA content with the 5th round coming out this week and Cage Chat Next Opponent. Make sure to share it on social media, and I'll see you on the next one.